Alright guys, so I'm about to leave to go watch Spider-Man No Way Home right now. And yeah, I was really lucky to be one of the first ones to get a ticket in one of the IMAX theaters. So yeah, super excited. So yeah, I will let you know how it goes. I'll be right back. Alright guys, so I just got back from what might possibly be the best Spider-Man movie that I have ever seen. And yeah, that's a pretty tall order considering that there are 8 Spider-Man movies before this one that I have seen. Anyway, so this is gonna be my review for Spider-Man No Way Home. Non-spoiler review, so don't worry about spoilers here. I'm gonna only reference things that we have already seen in the official trailers that have been released. Because trust me, I know how it feels to go on YouTube, and literally every other recommended video is some type of leaked scene from a badly recorded theater version. So yeah, no spoilers here. Although I will have a full spoiler version on my channel tomorrow, so please subscribe and stay tuned for that. With all that being said, let's get into it. Alright, so the basic premise is that Peter Parker from Far From Home was outed as Spider-Man at the very end of that movie, spoilers, by a dying Mysterio. Now, J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, is sicking the media dogs after him, calling him a menace and all that. And again, this is all from the trailers, but all this attention from the media and the public trying to get every scrap of information from him and those that are close to him is really making a lot of trouble for their lives. So Peter decides to turn to magic by going to Doctor Strange and see, what they can do to make everyone forget that he's Spider-Man, basically turn back time. But somehow Peter and his, antics and his indecisiveness botches the entire spell and ends up bringing all the villains from the other movies or the other movie universes into the MCU universe. And I know that we already know all this from everyone breaking down the trailers that have been released, but seeing the actual movie and how the villains come into play was just an absolute pleasure. And you can bet that there are plenty of surprises here that I will not spoil. And I gotta say, there are so many surprises here. Some that people have predicted, and plenty more that we had no idea are here. For me, even though I have seen all the previous Spider-Man movies, I think even if you are coming into this movie as a complete noob, it does do a great job of telling you the story and the reasons behind each character's arrival, as well as who they are. So if you're coming in as a fan or a non-fan, you will get the story no problem. But of course, for longtime fans of the character, there are plenty of references and Easter eggs that pop up in the movie, so be on the lookout for those. Speaking of the characters, the villains, both Doc Ock, played by the original Alfred Molina, and Green Goblin, played by Willem Dafoe, look and feel pretty much like they did in the original movies. Marvel's de-aging technology really did some wonders here. And both of their acting was great as well. And you really feel like they brought back the original versions of these characters straight from those original movies. Jamie Foxx, I thought, was even better in this one, now that he's no longer a transparent blue jellyfish, and you can actually see his face, and he can actually emote through Electro as an actor. These villains actually have some pretty good character arcs as well, considering that there are 5 villains in the movie. And I gotta hand it to Marvel for being able to achieve this, since there are plenty of movies where there are only just 1 or 2 villains and they couldn't even get those right. Here, I felt that I understood the drive and reasons for the villains doing what they do and why they are doing the things that they do. But obviously, we don't dive too deep into each villain, as there's just too many to give each one the same attention. But I do appreciate that both the original Spider-Man trilogy as well as the Amazing Spider-Man trilogy had at least one villain that was at the forefront of the group of bad guys here. Obviously, Spider-Man is the main star in this movie, and Tom Holland, oh my god. Does he deliver some really emotional moments here as Spider-Man and as Peter Parker. There are some great, unprecedented, and really surprising, touching moments in the movie that I'm sure will get a lot of you teary-eyed, for sure. MJ, I think, is also at her best here, as it feels that she is now very comfortable in her character and being Spider-Man's girlfriend. You really feel her troubles, as she is also at the center of the media attention. I really think that Peter and MJ's relationship here is super cute and pretty realistic, and I enjoy that aspect very, very much. And what's more is that MJ's character growth here is pretty substantial. Although I do think that the Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone Spidey relationship is still the top one in my opinion. Ned was also really, really good, as his character is definitely the comic relief character for the movie, but he does have some narrative significance as well this time around, much more than the previous movies. And even Aunt May has some great story-altering moments in this one. And finally, we have Doctor Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. He's just always great in any movie, I feel like, but understandably, he takes the sidelines in this movie since, he has his own movie coming here next up with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but he does have some really cool action and moments to him nonetheless. And speaking of action, the action scenes are top notch. Literally at no point did I feel like any of the CGI was too CGI, if you get what I mean. And I also feel that the effects here are much clearer and much more readable than Far From Home, and you can really tell what's going on during an action scene, despite the fact that there are so many villains here, which is great. They do use some really cool special effects in this movie to portray the Peter tingle that they haven't used before, so that was really cool to see. The story, in terms of its pacing for me, could have been maybe 5% tighter, and some moments I wish could have been a bit longer or given more attention. Otherwise, I literally have no gripes with this movie. It definitely is a much darker story, but it still has that lightheartedness that you would expect from an MCU Spider-Man movie. So, overall, this is definitely one of the biggest movies of the year, if not the biggest. But at the same time, it is a very relatable storyline while also having all the bombastic moments that you expect from a movie like this, and also much, much more. And this is for sure the heaviest Spider-Man movie, not only in terms of emotion, but also just in terms of scope and just stuff packed into this movie. It is very dense, but it is also surprisingly coherent and tight. So as a newcomer, you can definitely watch this movie as your very first Spider-Man movie. And as a longtime fan, there's definitely a lot of stuff to look out for. I really don't think that there is even a minute of wasted time here, and everything is just comfortably packed into a very cohesive story. This movie also really does have that finality feel to it. It almost feels like Sony and Marvel used all their ultimate abilities and all their aces up their sleeves in this movie, that it's kind of hard for me to see how a potential next Spider-Man movie could top this one, just in terms of creativity in the story alone. So for me, I just came out of this movie, but this is definitely one of the best Spider-Man movies that I have ever seen. I think that this one is at the top of the list, followed pretty closely by Into the Spider-Verse, and then the original Spider-Man 2, and then the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I thought was really good. And then, there's the rest that are pretty much in equal footing in my book. Definitely see this movie in the biggest screen that you can possibly get. There's just a lot of, just incredible moments that a small screen just wouldn't do it justice. So the action was literally top-notch, with some of the best visual effects and action that I have ever seen. The story is emotional and gripping, and overall, it's just one of the most fun experiences that you can have at the cinema all year. Because trust me guys, this movie will leave you pretty breathless by the end. I give this movie an A. And that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie in the comments down below. And please guys, like and subscribe to the channel, as I got a lot more great content coming. Full spoiler review coming tomorrow. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.